Platyhelminthes, or as people like to call them, flatworms. These entities, or at least scientists call them animals, are flat in the same way a paper or a sheet of glass are, that are as thin as the brains of some politicians. Except these so-called animals do not have a proper brain yet, have still lived for hundreds of years. You know, politicians should learn from them. Platyhelminthes are among the simplest creatures of Earth, which is impressive because they don't have a proper circulatory system, or a respiratory system, or in some cases even a digestive system. Instead, they just absorb nutrients directly through their bodies like biological paper towels. Scientists call this efficient. Most people would call it a bit unsettling. Tell me about trematodes.
So, trematodes are parasitic diagenetic flukes where the adult forms are covered with a non-ciliated syncytial tegament and possess oral and ventral suckers.
Oh, so do these orchestral instruments just so happen to now have a windy form than the normal ones?
Windy? Orchestral instruments? Sorry, I don't actually know where we're heading.
Well, you just said that flutes have these non-ciliated syncytial teguments and suckers, so...
Oh, I meant flukes, not flukes.
Oh, okay, I see.
So, flukes are a type of flatworms. They are obligated internal parasites, and most of the species are known to be hermaphrodites.
So, what now has Aphrodite, I mean beauty in general, has something to do with flukes? I mean, they're just worms.
No, I meant that they are hermaphrodites.
Oh, so Hermes is now involved with worms? Really?
No. Hermaphrodites means that they have both male and female reproductive organs.
I see. So I reckon that these flukes have species. Can you tell me something about those?
Well, the first we have the liver flukes, which are Fasciola hepatica and Fasciola gigantica, with the latter being longer and more slender. Both have large ovoid operculated eggs. Fasciola hepatica causes fasciolitis or liver rot, while Fasciolopsis busky causes fasciolopsiasis. Their eggs resemble Fasciola hepaticus, but its adult form is elongated and lacks cephalic cones. Their large testes lie at the posterior half of the body, while that of the hepatica are behind the ovary.
So, is that all?
Actually, no. There are many other representative flukes. Paragonimus pastermani, the oriental dung fluke, they causes paragonitis. Its golden brown egg has a flattened operculum, and the adult form is thick and reddish brown in color. Meanwhile, we have the Chronorchis sinensis, or the Chinese or Oriental liver fluke, where they inhabit the...
Wait, so are we now being racist here because you just said Chinese fluke, Oriental fluke, so what's next? The Indian fluke, African fluke, the black fluke?
No. Basically, we just named these species based on where they are primarily seen. So, as I said, the Chronorchis sinensis inhabits the liver or the bile ducts. Their egg has a small protuberance at the end, and unlike the fasciolas, their testes and ovaries are lobated.
What about Opisthokis, Euparium, Elocanum, and heterophytes? Heterophytes? You know, scientists should do better in naming organisms. I mean, they're a bunch of bullshit.
Opisthorchis species have eggs similar to Chronorchis sinensis. Their adult forms are also similar but smaller. The Euparium elocanum has large eggs, and the adult form has 2 rows of collar spines. Heterophyes, a small fluke, has the smallest eggs among the group, resembling Chronorchis sinensis as well, and its body is covered with slender scales, particularly at the anterior end.
So basically, fluke eggs are just peanut with lids with a bottle of jam, and once they get older, they got a blob of suckers and a bunch of organs for quality mating. Is that it?
Well, frankly, if you look at that way, yeah, I guess so. Although the position and sizes of their suckers vary as well as the morphology of their reproductive organs.
Today, I'm joined by a leading specialist in schistosoma. So, what actually is schistosoma, and why are they called blood flukes?
Now, schistosomes stand out from the other flukes that were discussed because most flukes are hermaphroditic, as mentioned before, but schistosoma species have separate sexes. They are what we call dioecious, and they live permanently as male and female pairs, thus, which is why we call them paired nematodes.
Oh, so they never ever separate, huh?
Yes, schistosomas are basically built up of a male and female worm. The male is shorter and broader, while the female is long and slender. The female actually lives inside the groove in the male's body called the gynecophoric canal.
So this time it's the female that's inside the male?
Technically speaking, yes.
So they are not just parasites of humans, but they're also parasites of each other emotionally.
Scientifically, they just remain paired for reproduction.
Well, that is the most committed relationship I have ever heard. Failing marriages, we learn a thing or two from them. What more can we know about them?
There are actually three major species of this genus: Schistosoma hematobium, Schistosoma mansoni, and Schistosoma aponicum. They differ in morphology, egg structure, and anatomical features.
And they differ in name, of course.
Yes, that's correct. The three can be differentiated mainly through their tegmental papillae, or sensory and protective structures, with Schistosoma hematobium having small tubercules, Mansoni have large and prominent ones, and lastly, Aponicum don't have any at all.
Who would have thought pupils could be useful for organisms?
They also have a different number of significant structures. Aponicum, for example, have the most number of eggs, while Mansoni have the most number of testes.
I guess you did worry about being infertile when it comes to these parasites.
Other morphological differences include ovary position, vidillary location, and egg morphology. More differences can also be read here.
I prefer tables involving tea and biscuits. Do these schistosomes also differ in life cycle with other parasites?
Yes, and actually they have quite the advantage. They share similarities in earlier stages, such as when the egg hatches into a meristidium, which infects the snail, and inside the snail it develops into spore cysts and produces cercariae.
Yes, something I've never heard before.
The difference comes after the cercaria leaves the snail, and in most other digynians, the cercaria insists to form a metacercaria on plants or in a second intermediate post. Humans then ingest that stage, but schistosomes actually skip this stage because they do not infect humans through ingestion.
So they are safe to eat?
No. Instead, they are free-swimming cercaria directly penetrate the intact human skin in fresh water. That is actually the infective stage, in which only then will they mature into adults.
They must be really sharp.
Not really, because they have specialized structures like a burrowing tail, a specialized suckers, and they have the ability to release proteolytic enzymes that can degrade skin proteins.
Well, they must really suck. And I'm sure once they're in, they meet up with other parasites?
No, because that's another major difference actually. Most trematodes inhabit organs like the bile ducts or intestines, while schistosomes live in blood vessels.
They must be called vessels for a reason.
In practical terms, yes.
And after breaking in, does it at least go to the liver like others?
No, because most digynians migrate to organs such as the bile ducts and intestines, while schistosomes specifically migrate to and mature in blood vessels depending on the species, and it can either be vesicle or mesenteric veins.
So not only does it skip an entire stage during development, it goes straight into the bloodstream, yes?
Correct.
And I thought vampires would be sexy. So we talked about the trematodes, flukes, flat leaf shapes, dramatic life cycles, honestly a lot going on. But now we move on to the parasites everybody recognizes, the one every Filipino kid was warned about after eating street food. Cestodes. But are they just local flukes or something completely different?
Not really. Cestodes or tapeworms are elongated, segmented worms, so no, they are not longer flukes. They lack a digestive tract and digest nutrients repeatedly. Divided into pseudophilidians and cyclophilidians. They have 3 major body parts, columns with suckers or botria for attachment to the host intestine. The neck that produces new segments and strobila, a chain of proteins containing the hermaphroditic reproduction organs.
So they don't eat, they just absorb, like emotional damage.
They attach using scallops with suckers and sometimes hooks.
Which one has hooks?
Taenia solium has hooks while Taenia sativa does not.
So pork is hard, beef is polite.
Actually, these tapeworms are acquired by eating undercooked pork or beef containing larval cysts. Both have a typical cestode structures and indistinguishable eggs. Taenius saginata is larger, has an armed scolex, and a bilobed ovary and 15 or more uterine branches. It uses cattle as the intermediate host and causes intestinal teniasis only. While Taenius volume is smaller and has an armed scolex with a double crown of hooks, or a trilobed ovary and 5 to 13 uterine branches. It uses the peak as the intermediate host and can cause both teniasis and cysticercosis when eggs are ingested.
Well, that's a lot of info to take. Please tell me that's all you have to say about them.
No, I'm not done. Other tapeworms include Hymenolopis nana, the dwarf tapeworm. It's the smallest human tapeworm and has hooks on its scolex and can complete its life cycle in a single host, causing auto-infection. Also, Hymenolopis liminata, the rat tapeworm, larger, no hooks, requires an insect intermediate host, and humans are actually accidental hosts. Then, Dipinidium caninum, the dog tapeworm, it has hooked scolex, produces egg packets, and its proglottids look like grains of rice. Infection comes from swallowing infected fleas. And next is Echinococcus granulosus. The adult is tiny with only 3 proglottids, but its larval stage forms high cysts in organs like the liver and lungs. And finally, from the Pseudophilidae, the Diphyllobotium latu, the fish tapeworm, it's the longest human tapeworm. Its scolex has motillia, stocking groups instead of suckers, and it may cause vitamin B12 deficiency.
So basically, Itchyworm reproductive each with its own style of attachment.
Scientifically speaking, yes.
So what we're looking at here is a collection of tiny pebbles that live inside people's anuses?
Well, first of all, these aren't pebbles. They're eggs of flatworms. And indeed, they are tiny as we measure them in micrometers. However, no matter how tiny they are, they still vary in shape.
Right, micrometers.
Yes. So the biggest one on the list is Fasciola gigantica, nearly 190 micrometers.
Why? Is it the most ambitious out of all the trifluids?
Not necessarily. It's just the larger fluke in the list. It's ellipsoidal in shape and has an orbiculum, which acts as a lid.
Oh, so like a condom?
No, it's basically like a door. Similarly, Clomorchis and Diphyllobothrium both have operculums. However, while the former two are flukes, the Diphyllobothrium is a tapeworm.
So it's a fake. Is it a motto in life to fake it till you make it?
Moving on, we have the schistosomes, which have spines, referring to the pointed spear-like figure pointing out of the egg. However, in contrast, Schistosoma japonicum has a knob, almost invisible.
Mine soil looks like it has an erect.
The Hymenolopis is observed to have a transparent double-layered shell. However, Nana has polar filaments similar to thin hair, and Diminuta does not.
So Nana has pubes.
Sure, Philonda. The most interesting look is probably the Palladium, which has egg packets.
So it's an egg with tiny eggs inside.
One of the smallest is Heterophyes, which barely reach 30 micrometers.
So doctor, does size matter? If you put Heterophyes and Gigantica in a ring, who would win?
They're eggs.
Okay, so what the fuck is spragnosis?
I think you're talking about spargnosis. It is a tissue infection caused by a plerocercoid larva of a tapeworm. This larvae can migrate.
Like birds.
No, they basically burrow in subcutaneous tissue, the eyes, or the nervous system.
So like when I was crying words out.
So what have we learned? That you don't need a brain, bones, or even a stomach to succeed in life. You just need to be extremely flat, attach, absorb, and reproduce. And somehow that strategy has worked for millions of years. Which does make you wonder, who really is the advanced species here?